Today, I take a step forwards towards completing another great Conservative reform, the national living wage. Since we introduced it, nearly 2 million people have been lifted from absolute poverty after housing costs, not by tax credits or benefits, but by removing the barriers to work, boosting salaries, cutting tax, making work pay. We promised in our manifesto to raise the national living wage to 2/3 of median income, ending low pay in this country. At the moment, it's £10.42 an hour, and we're waiting for the Low Pay Commission to tell us next year's recommendation. But I confirm today, whatever that recommendation, we'll increase the national living wage to at least £11 an hour next year. That's a pay rise for 2 million workers, and the wages of the lowest paid over £9,000 higher than they were in 2010. Because if you work hard, a Conservative government will always have your back. Conservatives will always protect public services, but we're also honest about the taxes that pay for them. After a once-in-a-century pandemic and the biggest energy crisis in a generation, the level of tax is too high. We were right to protect jobs and families, and thanks to Rishi's furlough scheme, we recovered faster from the pandemic than others. But with an ageing population and a war in Europe, public spending is still growing faster than the economy. Now, some say that's inevitable. The Institute for Fiscal Studies said last week it's likely to be what they said was a decisive and permanent shift to a higher tax economy. Conference, they're wrong. We need a more productive state, not a bigger state. If we increase public sector productivity growth by just 0.5%, we can stabilise public spending as a proportion of GDP. Increase it by more and we can bring the tax burden down. 0.5%. Now, for those of us with private sector backgrounds, that doesn't seem too much, does it? In the public sector, I'm telling you, it's harder, but we are up for the challenge. So I've commissioned my deputy, John Glenn, to restart the process of public service reform. John wants to know why teachers say that more than half their time is spent not actually teaching. Why police officers complain they spend longer filling out forms than catching criminals. Why doctors and nurses say they spend up to half their time, not with patients, but on admin. Of course, we need modern working practices and better IT. But the Treasury too needs to change its focus from short-term cost control to long-term cost reduction. And we're going to start with the civil service. We have the best civil servants in the world, and they saved many lives in the pandemic by working night and day. But even after that pandemic's over, we still have 66,000 more civil servants than before. New policies should not always mean new people. So today, I'm freezing the expansion of the civil service and putting in place a plan to reduce its numbers to pre-pandemic levels. This will save £1 billion next year. And I won't lift that freeze until we have a proper plan, not just for the civil service, but for all public sector productivity improvements.